dry. Aborigines would have walked where sharks now swim, hunting kangaroos on hillsides that fish now graze. As the Ice Age waned and the world thawed, the seas rose yet again. Coral larvae drifted in to reclaim the seafloor. Today's Great Barrier Reef, so big you can see it from space, is a surprisingly new arrival on the Australian stage. And so, for the most part, are we. In many ways, you can think of James Cook's climb here to the summit of Lizard Island as a kind of turning point, the place from where our modern, still unfolding chapter of Australia's long story began. Because it's from here that he spied an escape route back to England, and the modern world soon followed. It was like a collision of continents, a sudden end to a long isolation. In the blink of a geological eye, humans have altered the continent forever. We've cleared and cultivated the land, losing prehistoric forests and ancient soils in the process. The rest of the world has been brought in with us in the form of animals and plants, pests and diseases. And much of what did live here has gone.
Well, in here, Richard, really is the cabinet of catastrophe.
Look at them all.
This cabinet's full of mammal species that no longer exist. You know, what we've got here is a desert rat kangaroo, last seen in 1931, Central Australia.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, look at the beautiful black subterminal bands. And these are short-faced potoroos. Last time these were seen, 1875. This is a pig-footed bandicoot, last seen about 1906 in Central Australia.
And this is the final filmed record of the now extinct thylacine, the largest marsupial predator to make it into modern times.
Now, the reason this was persecuted, this animal, was because it supposedly killed sheep. We now know that 80% or so of the sheep that did die were stolen by convicts. They weren't killed by this animal.
What the film doesn't show is the moment when, in righteous indignation, the thylacine opened its remarkable marsupial jaws and bit the photographer firmly on his placental rear end. Many of Australia's marsupials remain at risk.
This extinction event is coupled with the one that happened 50,000 years ago, the giant megafauna. It's on the sort of scale that we see in the great prehistoric extinctions. It's the devastation of a continent.
As clear as the cosmic dust marking the last days of the dinosaurs, our indelible radioactive signature is now being recorded in the rocks. The mark of the age of man. Around the world, we've become a powerful force of nature, the equal at least of any life form that has come before. Of life to shape the planet. After all, it was industrious prehistoric bacteria in the shape of stromatolites that created Australia's vast iron ore deposits. And it's us, life in the form of humans, that can shift whole mountains of the stuff to the other side of the world. Each year now, humans shift more rock and soil than the flow of rivers and glaciers carries to the sea. And civilization is on track to burn as much energy each year as is released as heat from within the Earth. In doing all this, we alter the chemistry of our thin, precious atmosphere and finite oceans. And the geological extinction record shows we do so at our peril. We may now hold dominion over the Earth, but the planet always wins in the end. Almost nothing we see in the landscape of modern Australia will survive the test of geological time. Eventually, all this will go. The people, the buildings, probably the bedrock itself. Today's legacies will linger in stories passed down in the rocks that are endlessly recycled, and in the genes of living organisms that keep flowing down the road of time. This ribbon of life runs unbroken through the history of the Australian continent. The first life forms skirted the shoreline here. Then they climbed ashore. And now, 4.5 billion years down the road, we have climbed aboard as well.
We may not know what lies ahead for us, but thanks to some very accurate GPS measurements, we do know where the continent's going. Each year now, Australia and everything on it is moving about the length of my finger, in this direction, towards the Northern Hemisphere.
Sometime in the future, Australia should cross the equator, as it last did 500 million years ago. It will once again be part of another great supercontinent. A new world somewhere in the North Pacific. Our challenge in this, our geological instant, is to steer a path that does not cut our own future short, and with it, that of the many plants and animals along for the ride. That is what is so remarkable about the age we live in. For the first time in history, there's a species on this remarkable walkabout continent that has that choice to make.